All right, let's talk about something that is quietly sabotaging the health of millions, a single root cause that connects some of the biggest, scariest chronic diseases out there. And the thing is, it can be doing damage for decades without you even knowing it's there. The problem, as you can see, it starts with insulin, but the story is way more complex than you probably think. So let me start with a question for you. What one single thing could possibly link Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, infertility, and diabetes? I mean, they seem so different, right? And what if I told you that whatever this condition is, it could be developing in your body for 20 years, a full 2 decades, before you ever get a diagnosis? Well, the answer is insulin resistance. But hold on. If you think you already know what that term means, you're definitely going to want to stick around. Because the way we usually talk about it, the conventional wisdom, it misses the real story completely. Now, this is the textbook definition, right? The one you'll find if you Google it. It says your cells stop responding to insulin so they can't pull sugar out of your blood for energy. It makes it sound like your cells are the problem. They're being stubborn or resistant. But what if that's looking at it completely backwards? And this is the core idea that changes everything. The term insulin resistance is basically a misnomer. The real problem isn't the resistance itself. The real problem is hyperinsulinemia, which is just a fancy way of saying you have chronically high levels of insulin. The resistance, well, that's just your body's defense mechanism against that flood of insulin. It's a symptom, not the root cause. So how does this even happen? Well, it's a vicious cycle. It usually starts with a diet high in carbs and sugar, which makes your blood sugar spike. Your body, trying to deal with this, just pumps out more and more insulin. Insulin's job is to basically knock on the door of your cells and shove that sugar inside to be stored as fat. But after years of this, your cells are just totally overwhelmed. It's like the boy who cried wolf. The insulin is constantly screaming, and eventually the cells just plug their ears and start ignoring the signal. That's the resistance. And here's the thing. This one problem, this constant flood of insulin, doesn't just stay in one place. Oh no. It kicks off a massive cascade of consequences, a huge domino effect throughout your entire body, leading to all sorts of diseases that seem completely unrelated. Let's start with the brain. You might be shocked to hear this, but researchers are now calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes. Why? Because it's becoming crystal clear that the disease is tied to insulin resistance in the brain. The damage we see isn't random, it's directly connected to problems with insulin signaling, which messes up the brain's ability to function and protect itself. Okay, now this is fascinating and honestly a little concerning. Statins, you know, those incredibly common cholesterol drugs, they might have some unintended consequences. Studies are showing that people who take statins tend to have higher markers of insulin resistance. And get this, one report found that after being on statins for 15 to 20 years, the risk of developing diabetes shot up by a jaw-dropping 363%. I mean, just let that number sink in.
It really makes you wonder if we're sometimes just trading one chronic disease for another.
That domino effect also hits reproductive health, and it hits it hard. For women, we now know that insulin resistance is a primary driver of polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS, which is one of the biggest causes of infertility today. You can't fix the fertility issue without first addressing the underlying insulin problem. And really, you can't talk about insulin without bringing in the rest of the hormonal crew. They're all part of the same incredibly intricate web. When one is out of whack, it pulls the others down with it. And this hormonal connection plays out really differently for men and women. For women, after menopause, that big drop in estrogen can actually speed up the journey towards diabetes. But for men who are pre-diabetic, it's almost the opposite. Studies have shown that bringing their testosterone back up to healthy levels can actually reverse the condition, not just manage it, cure it. And the web just gets more tangled. There's this protein called SHBG. Think of it like a taxi service for your hormones. Its job is to bind to testosterone and keep it under control. But high insulin levels, they crash your SHBG levels. With fewer taxis around, you get more free testosterone just roaming around, causing issues like acne. And on top of that, a lot of people with PCOS also develop thyroid resistance, which just throws another huge wrench into the whole metabolic system. So this is the really crucial point. If all of this stuff is so deeply connected, it begs a huge question. Are we even looking for the right clues? This brings us to the whole problem of diagnosis, which frankly often misses the mark completely. And here's why getting the diagnosis right is so critical. This isn't a switch that flips overnight. The underlying problem with insulin can be developing silently for 20 years before it ever shows up as a full-blown disease like diabetes. For 2 decades, the damage is being done behind the scenes. Catching it early is everything. But here's the kicker. The standard tests you get at a checkup, like a fasting glucose or an A1C, they're often missing the main event. What really tells the story, what gives you the early warning, is your fasting insulin level. Another great test is a 2-hour glucose challenge, which shows you how your body actually handles a load of sugar. And why is that so important? Because you can have a perfectly normal fasting blood sugar for years and years, but backstage, your body is accomplishing that by pumping out dangerously high amounts of insulin to keep things in check. Looking only at your glucose is like seeing that there's no smoke in a room and assuming there's no fire. The high insulin, that's the fire. So all of this leaves us with a really big, provocative question to think about. For decades, our entire approach to metabolic health has been focused on the symptom, high blood sugar. But if the real root cause is actually high insulin, what else might we be getting completely wrong about this whole epidemic of chronic disease? So if you take one thing away from this entire explainer, please let it be this. To truly understand what's going on with your metabolic health, you have to look beyond just your blood sugar. You have to investigate the role of insulin. That is the key that unlocks this whole puzzle. As we've just seen, insulin touches everything from our brain health to our hormones. So if you're interested in exploring more of these incredible connections, from hormone optimization to metabolic psychiatry and regenerative medicine, be sure to subscribe and follow for more explainers just like this one.
Thanks so much for watching this Within You Health production.